Good, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Hello, everyone. I am the Shardy Guy, and welcome once again to my first ever, well, I guess technically now second ever live stream. I was supposed to do the first stream yesterday. I got about 20 minutes through, but unfortunately, then my internet started to play up, and unfortunately, I then had to cut it out at that stage. So, shit happens. I guess it's just teething issues, so that's what happens at the end of the day, I guess. So, yeah, as was the original intention of yesterday, and as I will do here, I will be going through all the events that kind of transpired on in regards to the MotoGP, the Moto2, and the Moto3 races that happened last weekend at the Phillip Island MotoGP circuit. And I guess also personally going through my personal experience and basically saying what the AGP group did well and what I feel like they would need to improve on for future races there. So I'll try and keep this as brief as I can. And plus, I got work later, so I can't really afford to babble on too much. So can't guarantee I won't do that, but let's see how we go. So first and foremost, it's a general statement. Overall, it was quite a good day. The weather was nice for the most part. There was at one stage where it was starting to rain, and we thought, okay, this is going to be a bit of a pain in the ass, going to dampen us, and we're going to end up stuck in the wet and cold for most of the day. But thankfully, after that initial rainstorm, well, it wasn't really a rainstorm, it was just a constant shower for about not even 2 or 3 minutes. And then, yeah, once that happened, it was mostly sunny for the rest of the day, which is, as I said, quite surprising. Um, so everything else I'll get to at a later stage. First and foremost, I will go through each of the races individually and just personally give my thoughts and review each of the races that occurred on a Sunday. So of course, the first race was the Moto3 race, and this race was won, and also our champion-elect for the Moto3 series is Eisen Guevara. So first and foremost, congratulations to him on winning the Moto3 World Championship. Whilst personally, I haven't really been watching the Moto3. Whenever you win a championship with 2 races to go, you've obviously done something right. So yeah, as I said, congratulations to him for winning the world title. Hopefully, he has great success for many years to come, and hopefully, sooner or later, we'll see him in the Moto3 grid. But of course, like any normal Moto3 race, there was quite a bit of a battle for the win, which is very normal at Phillip Island. Even go back 4 or 5 years, the Moto3 race has always been, well, under normal circumstances, it's always been the most entertaining race because there would always be 5, 6, 7 bikes all within one slipstream of each other, and before you know it, there's there's 4 or 5 people battling for the win, and one 1 minute one bike's leading, and then next minute when they go down the straight, another bike gets in its slipstream, and a bike that wasn't in front ends up fifth by the first corner. And the process just repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats, and you just think, okay, who the heck is going to win this race? You have no idea who's going to win, and yeah, that is the beauty of motor racing. Like, probably the best part of any type of motor racing is having a tight battle for the win, and you having no idea who's going to win until they cross that finish line. Under this circumstance, it was a 4-bike battle for the win. It was a course between Eisen Guevara, Denis Ontu, Sergio Garcia, who, might I add, is obviously it's Guevara's teammate. So this is a bit crucial when I get into a bit more detail later. And Ayumu Sasaki. I know I butchered some of these pronunciations, and I know I'll pronounce quite a few more pronunciations later on, but I'm an Aussie. I'm not European, so pronunciations of European names ain't my forte. So yeah, watching the race. So yeah, in case you hadn't seen the videos I posted on YouTube on Monday, I think it was either late Sunday or it was early Monday I posted them. I was positioned basically between the final two corners. So yeah, basically go through a sweeping bend, and then that will take you onto the main straight. And so from where I was standing, I could basically see them from when they enter. Can't remember what corner, what the name of it is, but it's that last little bend before they. Might actually quickly search it up. I think it might be Siberia. I'm not sure. Okay, it's up near Lukey Heights. We might as well say it's up that area of the track, and yeah, so basically we could see them as they entered Lukey Heights, came around the bend, past where I was, and then past the final corner, and then down the straight. After that, we obviously couldn't see them. So yeah, it was a battle between those four, and admittedly, since I haven't really followed Moto3, I wasn't entirely sure who was who, which was obviously a problem I'd get to with the Moto 2, but I'll get to that at a later time. And yeah, it would kind of be like, okay, which one is who's this person? Yeah, and at the time I wasn't actually aware that Garcia was Guevara's teammate. I actually only realized that when I did a bit of research. Well, would have been Wednesday now. So yeah, that was when I actually found out that yeah, Guevara and Garcia were teammates, which obviously I feel like was a little bit of gamesmanship towards the end of the race. It was just after they'd come out of Lukey Heights, the second last time, and I could have sworn when they were about to run towards the final corner, I could have sworn that I saw Garcia try to check up the bikes behind momentarily to try and give Guevara just that little bit of a buffer so he can get so he can try and get away from the slipstream of onto Garcia and Sasaki. And yeah, I felt like Garcia, I could have sworn that I saw him try and check the other two up to try and get Guevara just that little bit of the buffer that he needed, which obviously went to plan as Guevara ended up winning the race. And yeah, as I said, is now the champion-elect. So yeah, unless he stuffs up, he is this season's Moto3 World Champion. So yeah, it was a close battle between those four, as I said. At the end of the line, the four of them were separated by 56 hundredths of a second, which yeah is definitely not a lot. You'd think normally, in most circumstances in races, they're normally separated by tenths of a second, or they're separated by let's see, or yeah, by seconds in general. You don't normally see races separated by, especially having four riders separated by that much. It's very, very good to see, and it's definitely the beauty of black racing, especially in the lower categories, that you definitely don't normally see in NASCAR or even Supercar Series here, or really anything like that. You don't see that type of action. It's definitely the beauty of the MotoGP, which yeah, is definitely cool to see. And I guess since I am an Aussie, I do have to do a little bit of information about the one Australian who was in the race, and it was Joel Kelso, who's been competing full time in this series, and I believe he has been confirmed to return to the Moto3 next season. He unfortunately lost the draft as such of the lead pack, and he ended up pretty much once you lose the draft, or once you lose the slipstream of the blacks ahead, it's very hard for you to regain it. So unfortunately, he got stuck in the second group of riders, and he finished in 8th place. So definitely a good result. I'll happily take 8th place any day of the week. But unfortunately, it's definitely not as good as it could have been. And who knows, maybe now that he's got this experience, next season he could potentially battle for a podium, but we shall see. So that's the Moto 3 section sorted. That's about everything I need to say. Now on to Moto 2, which for me is definitely the low point of the day. Before I go into detail about the race, I shall address the elephant in the room. And that is, of course, the incident that took place between Simone Corsi and Jorge Navarro, and the controversy that happened after that. So, for those of you who are unaware on what took place, on the exit of Turn 4, which is Miller Corner now, as they call it, Navarro seemed to just lose traction of the bike, and yeah, unfortunately, bike gave way under him and it split out, so he obviously fell off on the track. And Corsi was the bike behind him, and unfortunately, it's just one of those situations where he just had nowhere to go. Unfortunately, it was one of the things that happen. Rider falls down ahead of you, you don't expect it, and next thing you know, your career's straight in him, and yeah, it's definitely not what you want to see from any standpoint, through a rider standpoint, or definitely not through a fan standpoint either, because there would be a lot of fans in that area, especially as I said, since it had only just been renamed Miller Corner. That area would have been very popular on that day. And unfortunately, as we've seen this year quite often, and especially even, in fact, only even just a couple of weeks ago, where unfortunately, more often than not, rider gets hit, it's never a good sign. And yeah, 9 times out of 10, rider's going to end up injured or worse, as we've unfortunately seen many, many times. So because I was on the other side of the track, I couldn't actually see what had taken place. So yeah, I was unaware of it at the time, and even when I first looked over it on the video, I wasn't sure what the big deal was about, because I thought all I'd seen was when they showed the replay, which was after I'd gotten home, saw the replay of what had taken place, and then I saw a rider. Then the next shot, there was a rider getting up and walking away. And I thought this was the same rider. But then at the same time, I'm seeing all these posts online, MotoGP controversy, race should have been stopped, the race should have been stopped. And I'm thinking, what do you guys mean? What's going on? And eventually I was able to piece everything all together when I was reading the news articles and kind of putting 2 and 2 together. And even when I look back on the race to do my review here, and it definitely wasn't. In short, the race should have been red flagged. There is no ifs or buts about it. The race should have been red flagged. To have a rider and a marshal in a vulnerable position on the side of the racetrack with nowhere to go, with basically no way to protect themselves if a rider fell off, that is not right at all. There is no reason at all that the race should have continued. It should have been Marshall looked over, noticed he was not getting up, and apparently there was even a visible sign that Navarro's leg wasn't in a very good position at all, and it definitely wasn't in any form of position to continue, and especially as a stretcher had to be called in the end to get Navarro safely off the track because he couldn't get up. So yeah, fair to say, Dorna, AGP group, whoever was in charge, they have a hell of a lot of explaining to do, and it could have very, very easily gone wrong. There could have easily been, without saying too more, but there could have easily been 2 fatalities there, because the marshals, they don't have a lot of protection to protect themselves if they get hit by a bike. They're just basically orange overalls, and they have the bib to indicate what they are, whether they're track marshal, medical, or anything of that nature. So if they get hit, they're fucked. There's no ifs or buts about it. And yeah, that happens. They are held to pay. So after being transported to the medical center, Jorge was taken from the racetrack to the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, which is about 2 hours away from Phillip Island. Because it was by helicopter, I believe, he would have got there in no time. And he's got a fractured femur, which definitely doesn't sound good at all, and definitely doesn't sound nice. He's obviously been ruled out of this weekend's race at Malaysia, and I would imagine he's probably out for the rest of the season. A couple of days ago, Navarro did release a statement on his various social media. He did post a video in his native Spanish language. Obviously, I do not know a word of Spanish, so I only watched about 2 seconds of it, so because I wouldn't have understood what he was saying. But he did also release a statement in English, which I will read out. And parts of it is definitely concerning, especially from a rider's perspective. Hello everyone. I just wanted to do this video to tell you that I am okay and that my physical condition is getting better every day, and I also wanted to know how I felt on Sunday. Without any doubts, this was the scariest moment of my racing career and my life. To be super close to the track with the bikes passing by and seeing my leg broken in two. This shouldn't ever happen. To anyone, thank you to Simone and the marshal who stayed by my side. A big thanks to all the medical staff at the circuit and the Alfred Hospital who took really good care of me. Thank you for all of your kind messages. They mean a lot to me. The surgery went well and I am recovering. Thank you. So, yes, definitely a few telltale signs about his statement. First and foremost, it's good to see that he is recovering and that he's improving. So hopefully, who knows? He might be back on the bike before the end of the season. Who knows? But at the same time, he even said that it was the scariest moment of his life. Being on the side of the road and, yeah, not knowing what's going on, whether he's... That's just not what a rider would want to see. I am sure when you are... Let's put it into perspective. It's basically probably like lying on the side of the road of a freeway. You would be scared shitless if you were in that position. I am sure no one would want to be in that position, and I am sure the last thing, when you got a fractured leg, the last thing you want to see and the last thing you want to hear are bikes roaring past you at, we'll probably say about 80 k's an hour. I know they are under yellow flag conditions, so they would still be able to reduce speed. But as I said, if anything went wrong, one rider ran wide, one rider lost it, it could have been a major, major catastrophe. And yeah, as I said, from what I'm aware, the marshals did call for a red flag. The marshals in that section called for a red flag. But for whatever reason, whether it was through the race director or whether it was through Dorna, no red flag was called. As far as I'm aware, there has been no statement about why they decided to not show the red flag. which is a bit harsh and a bit stupid on from my side, and I'm sure from everyone's side. Just like explain, why didn't you give the red flag? That's all we'd want to know. Because, as I said, it could have gone really wrong really fast. So outside of that, it was actually overall Moto 2 was a bit of a ball fest, at least from my perspective. The field did spread out very, very quickly, and even as you could see in my videos, I recorded the first 2 times they had passed me, and yeah, you can clearly see that by the second lap that they had passed me, well, leader had already established like a 6th, 7th, 10th lead, which is something that was a bit unexpected, and yeah, it kind of stayed like that the rest of the race, and it was, yeah, as there was a bit of a ball fest from my perspective because there was no real battle from the win. But first and foremost, congratulations to the person who did end up winning the race, which was Alonso Lopez. So yeah, as I said, whilst it was a bit of a ball fest, got to give credit where credit is due. Congrats on your victory, and all that, I guess. The rest of the podium was Pedro Acosta, who finished second. And on a side note, it was pretty cool seeing him wearing the Rebby Gardner t-shirt when he arrived in Parc Ferme. That I'll get to in the MotoGP section. But yeah, I've said it was very cool to see. And for the British people, Jake Dixon completed the podium. So, but yeah, as I said, they were very spread out. I think it was about 6 seconds between the top 3 by the time the race finished. So, yeah, compared to the other 2 races, it was a very, very dominating performance. In regards to the championship battle of Moto 2, it's anyone's to get now. Augusto Fernandez, who was leading the championship into this race, he crashed out towards the end of the race. So, yeah, he got no points from it. So, it was really up to the person who was in second place, Ayagura, to take advantage. However, unfortunately, he didn't. He struggled throughout the race, and from the looks of it, he struggled all weekend. Whilst I wasn't there on the practice days or the qualifying days, I believe he qualified like 15th, 13th, 15th, somewhere around there. And he was only able to get up to 11th place, which only got him like 4 points. So the gap between the two of them is now 3.5 points with 2 races to go. The reason why it is a half a point, or why it's a half point, is because at the previous round in Thailand, the race had to be cut short due to the torrential rain that took place during that race day. So half points was only provided, which is why the gap between the two is 3.5 points rather than it being 3 points or 4 points. So yeah, it's definitely a battle between those two for the championship. There is a third rider who is technically still in contention, but he's 50 points behind. And with only 50 points up for grabs, he's basically going to have to hope for Aguro and Fernandez to have absolute shockers the final two races, and for him to win the final two, and then I guess take the title on a count back off Fernandez. But yeah, it's very unlikely to see. But I guess if you're in contention, you're in contention. And now on to the MotoGP race, the main event of the day. What an absolute ripper of a race. It was awesome. I don't think I could have picked any better race to watch for my first ever MotoGP race. It was an absolute ripper. It was a battle between like seven. At the end of the race, it was a battle between 7 riders basically. One stage was only about 3 or 4 bikes battling for the win, but once it got to the end of the race, because they kept battling each other, the second bike group caught up to them, and yeah, as I said, at the final lap, there was 7 bikes, all bunched together, battling for the race win. And first and foremost, congratulations to the person who was able to get out on top and win the race, being Alex Rins for Suzuki. I am not entirely in the loop on the issues with Suzuki withdrawing at the end of the season. It's odd. It kind of came out of the blue, but what can you do? That's racing sometimes, and I guess manufacturer superiority, I guess. So in the end, as I said, the top 7 were separated by less than a second, and I think even the top 10 were only separated by about 3 seconds, which is the record for the closest finish amongst the top 10. So the riders who were in contention right at the end were, of course, Alex Rins, Marc Marquez, who I can almost guarantee it's the best race he's probably ran since his return from his various broken arms. It was definitely cool to see him have that success and finally get a good result. It would have been awesome to see him steal it on the final lap, but apparently he had, and as I could kind of see at times when he was entering Miller Corner, the brakes weren't really cooperating to him as much as I'm sure he would have liked him to, which probably would have been why he didn't do that dive bomb on Rins towards the end of the race. Pecco Bagnaia, who is now the championship leader, I will add. I will get to the issue with who was the leader before the race, Fabio Quartararo. I will get to him when I get to him. Marco Bezzecchi, who finished 4th. Good run from him, and he was up there for most of the race. He's really, when you compare the other 3 guys, he's not really a large name. He's not really a name who springs to mind to me. He's not really a person who really springs to mind at me at all. And yeah, it was quite a surprise to see him up there, and it's a shame he fell just short of the podium, but still a good result. Enea Bastianini kept his slim championship hopes alive by finishing in the 5th position. Luca Marini finished 6th, and Jorge Martin rounded out the top 7, or top 7 motorcade, I guess I'd call it. And yeah, as I said, by the end of the race, when they crossed the line, they were separated by less than a second. You do not see that at all at really any big time motorsports. You sure as hell will not see that in the MotoGP, not the MotoGP, Formula One. You would not see that in NASCAR. Or you probably could see them at NASCAR, but that's only because, well, either one, super speedways, and secondly, short tracks potentially. But imagine it on it'd pretty much be like on a road course. You would not see that at a road course. And yeah, as I said, Fiat supercars, you would not see that at all. So, me personally, it definitely shows how competitive the MotoGP series is, and especially with the various different not only the various different manufacturers, but also the various different teams that were battling for the win. And yeah, it was definitely awesome to see, and it was definitely a really awesome way to finish the racing actions. So yeah, on to the championship implications that took place on that race. Fabio Quartararo, as I said, was the leader before the race. He had an absolute nightmare. I don't think he could have gotten out of Philippine quick enough. Firstly, in one of the earlier laps, he lost the rear early on, which I believe was just due to a brake balance issue that I heard that they were saying over the commentary. Yeah, he lost the rear earlier on and basically had to go straight on at Miller Corner. But he stayed on the bike, which is quite rare to see. And he didn't make contact with anyone, which is even rarer to see, as we'll see a few laps later. And yeah, so he wound up the back of the field. So he had to basically cut his way back through the field, or at least try to cut his way through the whole field. Unfortunately, a few laps later, the front tyre gave out on him a few laps later, and unfortunately, then he crashed out of the race. So he is now in second position and 14 points behind Bagnaia in the standings. Aleix Espargaro, who was third in the championship, he didn't have a very good race at all. He was pretty quiet. He did show pace early on and was fighting for around the top 5, but I guess the tyre strategy just didn't work out at all for him at the end of the race, and he wound up dropping to 9th place. So he is now 27 points behind Bagnaia, and so basically he's just got to finish in front of Bagnaia to keep his hopes of the championship alive. We'll have to see if he's able to do it at Malaysia. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And of course, as I'd said earlier, with Bastianini's 5th place run, he keeps his very slim championship hopes alive, but he's 42 points behind Bagnaia. So he's basically got a hope for a nightmare for not only not only for Bagnaia but for Quartararo as well, because he would be 29, no, 28 points behind Quartararo. So he would have to hope for. So Presto had to hope for Bagnaia to crash out and finish ahead of Quartararo, which would be very difficult for him to do both, I reckon. And then there was, of course, the major incident that took place on the race. And the big talking point was, of course, the incident between Alex Marquez and Jack Miller. Alex Marquez, what had happened was heading into turn 4, which is Miller corner, a bit coincidental. Marquez was trying to overtake Marini, I think it was, and as he was in the process of overtaking him, he apparently experienced some sort of brake issue, which was something that his brother Mark would experience later in the race. And yeah, because he had the brake issue, the rear tire started to wriggle around, so he lost traction. And unfortunately, there was no way he was going to make the corner. So he basically had to go straight on, hope for the best. Unfortunately, Jack Miller was in the process of going around the corner, and he wouldn't have known shit until the contact would have happened, which I imagine would be the worst type of impact any type of motorsport person would want to experience, because your body has no idea it's coming, so your body has no idea there's no way to prepare itself for the impact until bang, and by then it's too late. You've already had the impact. So thankfully, it was good to see that both Jack Miller and Marquez were okay. Apparently, Jack was a bit injured in the Miller region, I guess I'll call it. But I mean, as I said, that would be relatively well, probably not in that area, but having some sort of bruising and feeling sore and sorry for yourself would be expected, because as I said, your body had no way to prepare itself for its impact at all. It was good to see after the incident that Alex pretty much went straight over to the Honda garage, Ducati garage, after Miller had arrived back in at the garage. It was good to see Marquez apologize face to face for what had happened. It was good to see them shake hands and, I presume, move on, as there's now no hard feelings. It was just a racing incident. That's what happened. Unfortunately, since it was at Miller's home Grand Prix, it's obviously escalated it just a little bit. And I do remember when it came over the PA that Marquez took out Miller. I remember jokingly saying to the person next to me, "Well, I guess Alex is going to need a police escort out of here," because I would imagine that there were a few people not being very pleased with the incident. And I guess since how tribal us Aussies can be at times, we would be very, very angry with him, and would probably have some very choice words to say to him if we had the chance to. As a consequence for causing the incident, Alex will now have to serve a long lap penalty at Malaysia. It's fair because, well, it was an undeserved, unprovoked incident. It shouldn't have happened. It was an avoidable accident. And yeah, you can't just take anyone out and expect to be let scot-free. So I say it's quite a fair penalty. And, well, yeah, hopefully he doesn't have hopefully doesn't, what's the word? Ruin his race too much, but if it does, it does. Unfortunately, punishments do have to be, punishments come to those people sometimes. So the other Australian in this race was, of course, Remy Gardner, who, of course, I bought the hat of this year. For those wondering, the other hats behind me, the one on the right, or the one on my left, is a Chevrolet hat that is signed by NASCAR driver Norm Benning that I won in a Facebook competition. So, yep, that's definitely up on the wall. And the one behind me is, I'll go get that now. The one that was behind me is, of course, a Nicky Hayden, number 69 hat. It was kind of unexpected to see. I mean, the Remy Gardner one, yep, that's the Remy one with the Remy signature. Yes, I know I've still got the price tags on there, but I'm not going to be wearing these very often, so I'll keep the tags on them for sentimental values. So, yeah, unfortunately for poor Remy, it was a very, very quiet race for him, and he finished 15th place, which sadly it's kind of been a story of his season, and unfortunately I can't really comment on the worldwide broadcast, but from an Australian broadcasting standpoint, it seems like he's always been overshadowed by Jack Miller's success. And unfortunately, that's just how harsh the Australian media can be sometimes, where on an international level, if you're doing well, they are going to do the stories about you. They're going to advertise you. They're going to do all that type of stuff. You get more notice. More people know you. Even from a casual standpoint, people will still know who you are. People will know what you do. People and all that type of stuff. But unfortunately for poor Remy this year, it hasn't really been a good season. He's always been on the outer of the top 10, and he's always been there or thereabouts. He hasn't really set the world on fire at all, which unfortunately has kind of led to him being ousted of MotoGP at the end of this season, which, yeah, it's very, very harsh for considering he's worked so hard to get there. He was in Moto2 for basically, I'm just going to recharge my computer. But considering he worked so hard in Moto2 for, I think it was like 5 seasons he was in Moto2, and considering from what I've heard, he had his chance to come in earlier. I think it was like 2018. He was offered a seat in MotoGP, but he said no. He didn't want it at that time. He didn't feel like he was ready. He felt like he had unfinished business in Moto2, so he elected to decline that deal and stay in Moto2 until, yeah, eventually getting that success at the end of the 2021 season in his 5th season in Moto2. Unfortunately, I guess from an outsider's perspective, that's when they see someone being in a lower series for 5 years before finally winning championship, they kind of think, okay, maybe he's just not really suitable for this type of series. Maybe it's just not meant to be. Maybe maybe he's not cut out for MotoGP. And especially since, as I said, well, as I will say, that he is the son of Wayne Gardner, who's a MotoGP legend, a former MotoGP world champion, and I believe, according to my t-shirt here, a former winner of the Australian MotoGP. So, yeah, to have that sort of expectation weighed on you and to have that type of pressure put on you. Of course, he wasn't really expected to set the world on fire in his first season. That's never really going to happen unless you're a special talent like a Marquez, like a Rossi. Can't really remember, but probably even Lorenzo probably did quite well in his first season. So yeah, and plus you got to be in a top tier ride too to start off as well. And unfortunately for him, as it's kind of shown, KTM can be good at some tracks, but other tracks it's just not really cut out for him. And so yeah, it's certainly a shame that he's been ousted at the end of the season, but he is going to the World Superbikes next season, which I firmly believe will put a hell of a lot more eyes on that series, and hopefully he can do great success there. He can have, hopefully he can start winning races. He can do well there, get great success, and who knows, maybe, just maybe, he might be brought back in a future season. You never know, especially if a rider gets injured. And before I go into my personal experience of the race, there was one other little race battle that I'm sure was given no attention at all on the broadcast, and most people probably wouldn't have even known it was happening. Now, whilst the riders went through on quite a few occasions, of course, eventually the field spread out in its various groups. And as all the riders would go past, be like a group of 3, group of 5, then there'll be probably one rider there on his own, and then group of 4, group of 2, and back relative back market group about 3 or 4, And then at the very back of the field, there was a group of two, and I'm thinking, hmm, this is quite an interesting battle. Obviously, I had no idea who was on the various bikes, or who was on those two bikes. Wasn't until after the race I actually found out who these guys were. Uh, they were Tetsuta Nakajima, who was filling in for Taki Namagami, who is injured at the moment, and Fabio Di Gianantonio. I know I completely butchered that name, but yeah, and well, yeah, he was up the very back of the field as well, because apparently earlier on, I didn't see it, but apparently, as he said on social media, apparently he got pushed wide at the start of the race, and that's why he ended up at the back of the field, and unfortunately, obviously never recovered. So yeah, as the laps progressed, those two just were never separated, and I'm thinking, I know as most people were thinking, oh, they're at the back of the field. We don't care about them. They're at the very back. Why should we care about them? But from my personal perspective, I'm thinking, this is an absolute fucking ripper of a battle. I know it's weird to say, because they're battling for, like, I think it was 18th, 19th, 20th in the race, which, of course, provides no points. But, yeah, you still get a little bit of bragging rights of seeing, of beating someone and having that little bit of fun. And so, yeah, as I say, I'm seeing them go through one at in their various groups, and lap after lap, those two are still neck and neck. And yeah, I'm, whilst I'm sure most people, well, most of the fields past will wait for leaders to come through. Da, 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 I'm, I'm watching these two and basically thinking, hmm, now I know the backmarkers, how backmarker fans kind of feel in the American series, in the NASCAR series, where you would see like Rick Ware Racing, Live Fast. Well, when Starcom was around, they were up the back of the field as well. Excuse me. And yeah, seeing them battle their hearts out neck and neck, even if they were at the back of the field, and I guarantee they'd get next to no notice whatsoever. But yeah, for basically the whole race, those two were nose to tail, and I'm wonder who's going to get out on top between these two. And eventually, in the end, they were separated by 15 thousandths of a second. Now, I would love to see. I sincerely hope there was a photographer out there who took a photo of when those two were about to cross the line, because I reckon it would be a ripper of a photo. But unfortunately, I 99.9% certain that no one would have taken a photo of it. No one would have. Not many people would have really cared. So it was definitely that was probably the ripper battle of the day, from my side. But yeah, I just wanted to give those two guys a little bit of exposure. But end of the day, shit happens. So now that I've gotten through the little race reviews of each series, I guess I'll go through my personal experience of the day. So first and foremost, with the fan base experience, Holy fuck, it was awesome to be back. To have the first ever MotoGP back in Australia in 3 years, I think it was. It was 2019 was the last one, so we missed out in 2020 and 2021. So this was the first one since 2019, and wow, oh wow, did we miss it. There was apparently 90,000 people across the whole weekend, and over 40,000 people on the race day. And I remember when I rocked up on the shuttle buses, which I'll get to very soon because I've got a hell of a lot to say about that. To be there and just look around and see people all along the fence line, all in the gates. I'd never seen anything like that in my whole life. It's definitely a overwhelming sight to see, and it was really cool to see from my perspective, or from my personal perspective. So it was definitely awesome to see lots and lots of people there. So it's definitely a sign that the Australian MotoGP is not going anywhere anytime soon, and I sincerely hope it's not. In regards to the facilities, such as toiletries and all that, I don't know, I didn't use them. I didn't need to, so I can't really comment on them too much. It seemed like there was an optimal amount. It didn't really look like there were any major queues, so I presume there were enough people, or enough facilities there for the people to use should they need to use it. The facilities, well, not facilities, I've already said that one. The merch stands were very, very cool, and they were relatively spread out. So that would be like a MotoGP branded merch stand in one part. There would be the Penrite merch area, which I presume were like the title sponsor of it. So that's why I presume that's why they had their merch trailer. And then there'd be there was of course the Valentino Rossi merch trailer, which I'm sure was popular as ever. I personally didn't go to the Rossi one. Maybe I will in a future season, but I'll see as kind of other riders I prefer to get merch off before I go to Rossi. And yeah, there'd be the Ducatis, Honda, which is obviously where I got the Nicky Hayden one. Then obviously Remy Gardner had his own merch trailer, so I got that one. No, Suzuki didn't have their own. I was about to say Suzuki had that one, but no, they didn't have their own. They were both their one and Aprilia one were kind of. There was one trailer that kind of had bits and bobs of most of the manufacturers of Honda, Aprilia, Ducati, Suzuki, KTM. No, KTM had their own one, but I'm pretty sure there was a merch trailer in that little bit for KTM as well. There were some show bikes there through the various manufacturers. There was the Ducati one Ducatis because they had their own hauler kind of, or marquee, I guess we'll call it. Then they had some show bikes put up in various cages for people to vote on, or which ones they liked the most. My personal favorite was the one that was the replica of the Repsol Honda. Personally, I don't really have a favorite team, but kind of from a personal perspective, I really like the Repsol Honda. I guess if I had to pick one team that I liked, it'd be Repsol Honda. So yeah, that definitely would have been the one I voted for if I bothered voting. I didn't really vote. I didn't bother. But yeah, it was definitely cool seeing all them. There was also, of course, a little bit of exposure about the upcoming Australian Grand Prix next year, which personally I feel is a little bit unnecessary. Because I mean, like, come on, whilst they are under the same banner, Formula One and MotoGP don't really go together. They don't really share many circuits anymore. Like, it's one weekend. Like, come on, like, it's MotoGP's weekend, not Formula One. We don't need the Formula One car there. Then yeah, a few other bits and bobs around there. So yeah, it was cool and all that. Uh, I guess I will say, I guess I'll go on the negative note, but then I'll finish on the positive. The thing I like the most across the whole day. So the negative, the transportation. Holy moly, this is gonna be fun. Right. So about a month ago, we're kind of gonna start this about a month ago, and then I'll get back to the present day very soon. Of course, there was a fair bit of rain in that area, so a bit of a downpour. So because of that, there wasn't a lot. They had to corner off some of the camping areas that people were using because the ground wasn't suitable. So obviously, the amount of camping areas got reduced. So that then meant that less areas to stay in. And it was at this stage where I thought, okay, what's the go with parking? What's the go with everything else in that nature? Because I personally, whilst I'd seen the outside of the circuit, I hadn't actually been inside the circuit before, so I wasn't sure whether there was set parking anywhere, or whether we'd have to park somewhere else and then walk on over. Well, it was about a few days beforehand when we got notified that, yes, there was a slight change. That, so basically, those who were the marshals and probably anything of that nature, they were allowed to park at the circuit, and campers as well. They were allowed to park at the circuit as well, obviously. But everyone else, we had to board a shuttle bus in various locations. There was, I think there was one in San Remo. There was one. No, there wasn't one in Kilcunda. There was one. I think there was one in Surf Beach, New Haven, and yeah, and the major shuttle buses were based in Cowes. So, which was about 5 minutes outside the track, so it wasn't too major. But well, when I rocked up on the Sunday, I thought, okay. And I had been hearing that there was a fair bit of teething issues with the bus systems, having issues getting out and getting out of the traffic. So, but yeah, we thought by Sunday the teething issues would be sorted and be relatively smooth sailing. Oh boy, were we wrong. So I rock up in Cows on the Sunday. I park in Cows and I walk to where one of the shuttle bus areas was. There were at least three of them that I was aware of. There might have been a fourth one, but I'm not sure. There were at least three. Uh, Surprisingly, I only had to wait about 5 minutes to get on the bus. I thought it would be probably a 15-20 minute wait, but thankfully I was on it and waiting about 5 minutes. Um, and yeah, the lady who sat next to me on the bus, she was I believe she was a chef for the Grand Prix, and yeah, she was even saying to me that yeah, over the past few days it'd been well, the Saturday was apparently okay, but the Friday wasn't too good. So I just thought, okay, they've got this under control. We'll be there in no time. We'll be able to get out, get in, get our seats. Bob's your uncle. Um, Unfortunately, as we were getting closer to the circuit, the bus kind of got caught in a traffic jam, and yeah, we were kind of stuck in it for about 5-10 minutes, and we're fully just outside the circuit. And yeah, there was communications been given each way to what's it call it to over the radios between the various bus drivers. There were calls, I believe, between the traffic controllers because there was some traffic control there as well to try and harness the level of traffic as much as possible. And yeah, so we're kind of stuck there for about 10 minutes or about 5 minutes. And so, yeah, that definitely wasn't ideal. So, yeah, I'm thinking, well, this isn't going to go well, I guess, at the after the race when everyone's trying to get the heck out of there. And I didn't leave straight away after the race. I hung around at the circuit for probably 15-20 minutes. I watched a bit of the race replay because they showed a replay in one of the marquees, so I went there and watched a bit of the race replay to kind of see so I could get a better viewpoint on what actually transpired between Marquez and Miller because I hadn't actually seen the video footage until then. So and went to a couple of the merch stands, and that was when I got my hats. And I thought, oh well, I guess I'll decide to head off. Well, oh well, oh well. Lines were absolutely chock-a-block for the buses, and the buses were all caught in log jams, so they couldn't get to where the people were. They were all stuck in as I said, they're all stuck in a fucking traffic jam. So I basically thought all along, and kind of as soon as I saw the massive lines, I thought, fuck this. And quite a few other people like me thought this as well. Fuck this shit. I'm walking back to Cows to get my car. And so, yeah, it was about a 40-minute walk back to Cows. And honestly, it was a bit of a pain in the ass because I not only had my backpack on, I had hats on as well. I had my umbrella in one hand. I think. Wait, no. I had my walking chair. Oh, not walking chair. My chair in one hand, and I was carrying. I can't remember what it was I was carrying, but I was carrying something in my other hand as well. So for 40 minutes, I was, about 40 minutes. Walk back to Cowes, along Phillip Island Road, which is, well, the main road on and off the island. It's basically the only way on and the only way off. Unless your car fancy going swimming, which I doubt it. So yeah, that's the part that's really, really got to be improved. I know there's a lot of farming area around the circuit, so whether they could purchase some of the circuit to either get a purpose-built car park first and foremost. Even if you gotta book them in advance on when you book your tickets, you book a reserved parking space for a certain fee, and that goes towards your parking. So that would be probably, so pretty much parking and transportation are pretty much the main things that's really, really got to be improved at the circuit. Because, quite frankly, that's just not good enough. You can't have people waiting in line for like half an hour, 40 minutes just to get on a bus to get home. It's just not right at all, and it's definitely not the right way for a world-class event to manage its patrons. So it's about all I have to say about that. But I will finish this on a good note, and it was probably the highlight of my day. So after the races had all finished, the fans and patrons, and after all the races and once the track was declared green, all us patrons were allowed to get on the circuit to go towards where the podium celebrations were, which is basically adjacent to the start finish line. So I was thinking about recording this part, but I thought, look, it's my first time doing this. I'd prefer to keep my recordings to a minimum, at least for this time. Maybe in another year I might do a bit more recordings. Thought, nah, this time it's just me. I will just soak in the atmosphere, enjoy all this, enjoy it for what it is, and just have fun, because I might not be able to do it next year. I might be able to. You never know. Depending on what my situation is. So, track was declared green. We were allowed on. Walked through the gravel trap, so I got to feel what the gravel traps feel like. All the AstroTurf. Got to see curbings, markings firsthand. I know for most people it sounds really stupid, but for me, it was, for a person who's always been interested in motorsports, to see everything all like this up close, it's definitely a sight to behold, and it's definitely an experience. I don't know whether most other tracks do this. I think Bathurst does. I'm not sure how many other circuits will do it, but for me, it's a first-time patron to see everything on this nature, and see all the fans gather around this area to watch the podium celebrations was it was definitely awesome that whilst COVID ruined a lot of things, that they kept this in. They didn't change it at all. They kept it. Yeah, they kept it as the tradition, and yeah, it was honestly a sight to behold. Um, yeah, the podiums was a highlight. Having all three of them simultaneously doing a shoey, which is basically become an Aussie tradition. Um, I don't know why it happened. I don't know why it suddenly became a massive thing, but I it's funny, it's cool, it happens, and then to see them throw their boots into the crowd. Unfortunately, they were all kind of thrown onto the other side on where I was standing, so that was slightly disappointing. But I was kind of a fair way back, so I even if they fucking pissed it, it wouldn't have fucking gotten to me. So that was, as I said, that was cool to see, and it was definitely a good way to end the day. And yeah, it was definitely, as I said, the highlight. It's a great way to enjoy the day, and yeah, I definitely recommend it to anyone who comes down here, either as an interstate visitor or as an international tourist. I know quite a lot of people here quite a lot of people who follow my channel are Americans. I know it would be quite expensive to get down here. I know it's probably not financially viable because, well, I'm looking at it vice versa. It's fucking expensive. So I'm pretty sure from the American standpoint to an Australian standpoint, it would be quite expensive. But yeah, if you can ever get down here in any way, shape, form, or capacity, I definitely recommend it, and you definitely will not be disappointed. And just before I go, of course, the World Superbikes are next month at Philippine Grand Prix, and I'll actually be a marshal or a volunteer for the event. I'm not 100% sure yet on what it is I'm doing. I presume I will be a flag marshal. So yeah, this will be my first time doing this type of thing. So I am absolutely shitting myself because I have no fucking clue what I've gotten myself into. And honestly, I was actually even surprised they had accepted my application because it was like, do you have this license? Nope. Do you have this license? Nope. Do you have this license? No. Do you have experience? Nope. So pretty much 90% of the questions were nope, 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 nope. Then yeah, to see a few days later, congratulations, your application's been accepted. Fuck. That. So yeah, I will be so yeah, I'll be there when the event's running, obviously. I'll probably do another review of the weekend as a whole, all the events took place, and sharing my experience as a volunteer or a flag marshal, so that people can see how it is on the other side of the fence. Because I can guarantee you, as we have seen in the Moto 2, not always butterflies and rainbows. So, we'll, I am definitely looking forward to it. But as I said, I am also shitting myself at the same time, considering I still not haven't been told what it is I am exactly doing yet. I presume I'll be told in the next couple of weeks. Um, So, yep, that's about everything I need to say. As expected, no one really joined, but I knew this was coming. So finally got through my first live stream, or first proper live stream. Internet didn't cut out this time. Big win for me. If you ever watch this back and have somehow gotten to this stage, you're a fucking legend. So like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. You are a fucking madman, and I'll see you all in the next video.